And thanks for joining us on PM Express. You've heard all the juicy gossip about this woman here, and she is Adwoa Safo. You've heard a lot about her from us and from elsewhere, reading on the portals, etc. But there is a bigger question that the controversy surrounding her brings up that we are going to be talking about here on PM Express, because it's not only about why she's been out of Parliament, the gossip around private jets bringing her down, being paid money, making demands of the government and the president, asking for Alexa Nyafenyo-Marking's job, and he was on this show, by the way, we put that question to him. All that gossip is really fascinating. It's really sensational. But when you strip all that off, there's a bigger conversation there that goes way beyond Adwoa Safo. It is about this conversation around absenteeism in Parliament. We vote for the MPs to go in there to represent us. So what happens when the member of Parliament, be it Adwoa Safo or whoever, decides simply not to go to work, to do the job we put there to do? What do we do then? The Constitution says we should do a few things, but Parliament has shown that they are unable, or they simply don't want to do so. And so let's have that conversation, because it's really about democracy. Why are we having this conversation? Yes, Adwoa Safo is a trigger, but I submit that we're having this conversation right now, the bigger conversation about MPs' absenteeism now, because of the hanged Parliament we have. MPs can no longer hide and stay at home and do whatever they want and not go to Parliament. In the past, when one party has a overwhelming majority of the numbers, 2, 3, 5 MPs can stay home for months and nobody will notice. Now, you stay at home for a day and your party may lose a crucial vote. And so we are noticing those absentee MPs. But this problem has been there for so long. Let's confront it. That's why we're having this conversation. Of course, we know Adwoa Safo. Of course, the conspiracy around her, that she's been out of the house for so long. The Speaker confirmed it, not me. The Speaker was emphatic that he's not giving Adwoa Safo any leave of absence, a permission to be absent from the House. He did not only say that, he went ahead to confirm that Adwoa Safo, according to the votes and proceedings, has been absent from the House for more than the constitutionally permitted 15 sittings. The key question then becomes, the Speaker, the Lord of Parliament, having made that determination, what then happens? Is it just okay to say, well, one member of Parliament has been absent and I haven't given her permission, and so we move on as business as usual? Is that what the Speaker is suggesting, or what Parliament is suggesting? We'll get into that with my guest shortly. We know, though, beyond Adwoa Safo, Samuel Kudjetwa Black, another MP on the minority side, had actually gone public with evidence. He waved it at us with the votes and proceedings, and says 2 members of Parliament, in addition to Adwoa Safo, have all absented themselves from the House 15 sittings without permission of the Speaker. He alleges that these 2, that is Kennedy Japan and the Greater Accra Regional Minister, are those individuals, he asserts, who have been absent without permission. And so according to him, they've also breached the article on the subject. And we went back to do some tracking with Odikro. Odikro, by the way, it's a very important civil society organization. And they took it upon themselves, because of how crucial the job of an MP is in representing you. They took it on themselves to monitor and track the presence and the reporting time of the MPs to the House, whether or not they are reporting to the House or not. They tracked it. And once we begin the conversation, you begin to see that the Constitution itself lacks a certain clarity on who should be doing the monitoring to determine that an MP has been absent. So the MPs are supposed to go to work, but who is checking the records? Who is checking the attendance to ensure and enforcing discipline that they actually come to work to do the job we attach them to do? Odikro, they have been doing the job, and we checked their data. They show that between 2023 and 2015, if you look at this, 25% absence without permission. 22.82% of the MPs, according to Odikro's data, they were absent without permission between 2013 and 2015. That is a lot of members of parliament. Only question to ask is, was this absent for 15 sittings? Were these MPs, the 22.82, were they absent for 15 sittings or more without permission? Odikro just simply tells us they were absent, and they were absent without permission, right? But that is the question really that we're going to be asking. So somebody's showing us the data. So what is the consequence for absenting yourself? You try absenting yourself for 15 sittings, or even for a week or 1 week at your private place of work, and see what happens to you. You will be fired by your employee. Our members of parliament, they stayed there, they are absent, 22.82%, and nothing happened. You put them there, we put them there, we give them the job, we are their employers, and we sit for 4 years only to go and change them. Is that acceptable? We'll come to that. And the Rodicro says absence with permission, 3.28%. So the overwhelming majority of the MPs are not coming to work, and they don't even bother to go and ask for permission. And okay, 73%, they are present. So those are the MPs that we celebrate. But we'll talk about what happens to this group of people. Even this group of people, even with the permission, there's an issue there. We'll talk about that very shortly. So this is Odikro's data, as I've explained there already. But there is a very important case that was decided by the appeals court in 2008, and it's very fascinating. In fact, it settles this conversation, settles the debate on what should happen to a member of parliament when he's absent from the House for 15 sittings without Speaker's permission, and who should do it, right? The first thing that I need to pay attention to is the constitutional provision, the fundamental constitutional provision on this matter, which says you vacate your seat, you lose your seat, and this is the C I want to focus on. If he is absent without permission, so first of all, you have to be absent. Second, you have to be absent without permission. In writing of the speaker must not verbally say, oh yeah, go. I mean, must write it, so there's evidence of this. And he is unable to offer a reasonable explanation to a parliamentary committee on privileges, right? So that's the second line of buffer there. From 15 sittings of a meeting of parliament during any period that parliament has been summoned to meet and continues to meet. So once you do this, you obviously will vacate your seat. That is what the Constitution says. Vacate the seat. You vacate the seat if you breach this. And then there's this case study I'm talking about in 2008. Let me give you the context here. Very fascinating context. Do you remember, there's a member of parliament called Eric Amoateng who was on the MPP side. In 2005, he was arrested in the USA, and the charge was that he was trafficking narcotics. And then his trial started. So for 3 months, a sitting member of parliament was in the grips of the law in the US and didn't even inform parliament officially about it. In the third month, his lawyer writes to the speaker to say, well, my client, who is a member in this house, is stuck in the US because he's been charged with and he's been investigated and prosecuted for alleged trafficking of narcotic drugs. Then his lawyer then makes a request that he should be granted indefinite leave to go and fight his case there, indefinitely. Parliament sits on it, sends it to the Privileges Committee. Privileges Committee returns a recommendation to the plenary and said, in essence, that Parliament recommends that Parliament should grant him the indefinite leave. It was debated, and the House then decided that Eric Amoateng should be granted indefinite leave. And so then he's granted indefinite leave, and he's gone. But then a gentleman, a professor who is joining us tonight, decided this is wrong. And so he went to court to challenge it at the High Court. He lost the case, and then he went to the appeals court. This is what the appeals court said. This is an excerpt. I want to bring that to your attention. The appeals court said that the plaintiff appellant, hearing after, referred as the appellant, contends that once a member absents himself from Parliament without explanation for more than 15 sittings in this case, that member's seat automatically, and focus, I want to focus on that word, automatically becomes vacant by operation of law. The judge concludes that this argument is sound in law and I accept it. What this ruling of the appeals court says is very final, is that if you absent yourself for more, and pay attention, the operative word is more, because the Constitution didn't use more, it uses for 15 sittings. But if you do it more, the judge and the appeals court concludes that you automatically, your seat becomes vacant. And it goes on to say, it is the clerk that must now inform that this has happened automatically. So what this means is that Adwoa Safo and the others, if they determine that, and as the speaker has done, that they've been absent for more than 15 sittings, this judgment of the appeals court says they automatically vacate their seat, because the judge says he finds this argument sound and they accept it. What else did the judgment say? It says it is for the clerk of parliament to notify the privileges committee of a vacancy under Article 112, notifying the committee, notifying the privilege committee of a vacancy under Article 112. But again, no time limit is set for the determination of the case. So clerk of parliament must notify the privileges committee that Adwoa Safo's seat, and the others, have become vacant on the back of this judgment. He says, as the Constitution does not envisage a constituency not to be represented in the Parliament for much more than 15 days, the delay is not good for our democracy, right? And so when you've absented, the judge is saying that the appeals court, 3 judges came to this conclusion unanimously that you cannot do this. You cannot absent yourself for more than 50 sittings. The Parliament watches on without, consequence. But here's the part that I really like. In interpreting the Constitution, it says Article 97(1)(c), which I just talked about, of the Constitution, and Standing Order 50 of Parliament, sets down 15 days as a maximum period. 15 days, maximum, right? Which a member can be absent without the Speaker's permission or explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges. It says, if it follows, therefore, that neither the Speaker nor the Committee on Privileges can grant the member more than 15 days absence or indefinite absence. In other words, even if Adwoa Safo had applied for more than 15 days, the judgment says the Speaker has no authority to grant him more, because the Constitution says 15 days, no more than that, right? Very fascinating indeed. Again, finally, I have already found that the maximum period the Speaker could allow a member of Parliament to absent himself is 15 days. And then he concludes, it is unacceptable for Parliament to grant leave of absence longer than envisaged under the article of the Constitution and the Standing Orders of Parliament. I find that it was unlawful for Parliament to grant honourable member of Parliament indefinite leave of absence. Very, very, very powerful. So if it's really the case, as the Speaker has already determined last week in the chair, that Adwoa Safo has been absent for more than 15 days according to votes and proceedings, according to this judgment, Adwoa Safo's seat is already vacant. The only thing that the clerk can do is right now, in fact, it's even past the time, to write the Privilege Committee to notify the Privilege Committee of the vacancy. And any other MP so determined who have absented himself from 15 sittings also suffers the same fate. So why are we not enforcing this? And